Welcome to Lesson 6 of Module 1 and 2 for Investigating Science. The first thing we're going to do for our Do Now for today is going to look at the Waterway Health Card for Blacktown City. So there's a copy available online and a copy is uploaded onto our Google Classroom. And when we read this article, we're going to create a list of 5 points. And then once we've added them to this table, we're going to say why we think this point is an important part to take from this secondary source. So pause the video now to complete that activity. For this activity, we're going to look at the inquiry question, how does primary data provide evidence for further investigation? And this inquiry question is going to frame our depth study, which is our assessment task for the module. We're going to look at our assessment outline and we're going to start a bootcamp session here for how we might plan our practical investigation. So for our assessment, we're focusing on the water quality in the Blacktown area. It is a practical investigation and a report, so we're going to be undertaking some field work. It is 40% of our Year 11 grade, and it is due at the end of Term 1. Each of the lessons along the way will begin with a bootcamp, followed by some individual work based on the investigation that you design. So the first thing we're going to look at is our hypothesis and our inquiry question. So remember, our inquiry question is what we're going to investigate. And our hypothesis here, we're looking at our if, then, because, or due to kind of statement. So looking at the variables we want to test and what we want to measure. The next thing that we're going to look at as part of our practical investigation is variables. And we've mentioned that previously in some other videos, but thought I'd just give us another update. So our independent variable are things that are deliberately changed during an investigation. And when I say things, I actually only mean one because that's what creates a valid investigation. And our independent variable is the one thing that we're going to measure in our investigation. And it is the change that happens because of the independent variable. And then we talk about controlled variables, and this can be multiple things and must be multiple things. It's the factor that is kept constant during the investigation. And we can see here on the right hand side, looking at how different liquids would change the growth of a plant. There are some other terms which will come up when we're planning our investigations in class. A control, and this is an experimental setup where the independent variable is not applied. So this kind of acts as a reference plant in terms of the plant investigation, or something that we can refer to make sure that our results are in fact because of the independent variable. When we talk about an experiment being valid, it's the extent to which a report or investigation contains accurate data, inferences, and conclusions. And the way that we make a valid scientific investigation is by having one independent variable, one dependent variable, and many controlled variables. And then when we talk about reliability, it's the extent to which an observation can be repeated under the same circumstances and produce similar results. So we look at this bullseye chart here to kind of look at our practical investigation. And we want to make sure that we're getting this last target on the end where we have a reliable and valid investigation. So while the first picture here on the left-hand side, we see that the results are reliable. However, it's not precise, so we can have an inaccurate data set and therefore it's not valid. We can look at a valid experiment. So we're seeing accurate data, an imprecise data set, but in fact it's not reliable. So we're not seeing the same results being produced. We can say not reliable and not valid for the third picture here. But what we really want is a reliable and valid investigation where we have accurate and precise data. So that concludes our Lesson 6 video. Make sure you're in class to go through the practical investigation and develop your inquiry question after reading the Waterway Health Card.